On this episode of Sea Level, I talk with Brian Oxley and Enrique Alvarez of Vector Global Logistics. So tell me a little bit about you guys and your business.
So my name's Enrique Alvarez. I'm originally from Mexico City. I came to the US in 2004 to study B-School. I went to Wharton in Philadelphia, graduated in 2006, and then came down to Atlanta to work for the Boston Consulting Group. That's where I met Brian. We were both doing consulting for almost 3 years, where we wanted to start something on our own. We thought about different projects and different potential ventures, and we looked into logistics, and for us, logistics was a very interesting industry.
So why logistics? What interests you the most?
Well, after conducting a couple of weeks of due diligence and just interviewing some people and really getting to know the industry well, after a project that we did for a company down in Mexico, we realized that the industry was very fragmented. So there's a lot of mom and pop shops out there. There's a lot of large international companies that are doing logistics, but even those big players are not don't account for a lot of the market share in the industry. So it was very fragmented. The other thing that we found is that the economy wasn't very good. It was really a lot of companies going under, unfortunately. So time-wise, we thought that could be an opportunity. And I guess I'll take a step back and I'll just tell you a little more about what our company is and what kind of industry we're participating in. I mean, we're an NVOCC, which is a non-vessel operating common carrier, which is a logistics company, international logistics company, and what that basically means is we have contracts with a lot of different suppliers, a lot of different contracts and contacts with agents around the world, and we're shipping ocean containers for our clients. So someone calls us and tells us that they need to ship 10 containers from Savannah, Georgia to Nigeria, Lagos, and we not only coordinate the loading the container, making sure the container gets there on time, making sure that it's loaded in the 2 hours that we have, but then also making sure the container returns to the port, goes to the other end of the world, and then we do the same thing at the other end of the world with our agents.
I can't imagine how difficult it is. I mean, I can't even plan a company party with my office, let alone like shipping something across the world. So,
well, I mean, when we got into it, we found in looking at different opportunities beyond logistics, we found that logistics was a great opportunity for us because, as Enrique started to mention earlier, it was, you know, very fragmented, a lot of smaller companies. It was kind of like the Wild West, where people were moving freight, doing whatever they wanted to do, but their mindset, what we found in the industry, is just people did it okay, they didn't do it well, they didn't communicate to the customer and be proactive, and the freight companies would try and price gouge their clients where they would try and charge an exorbitant margin. They were trying to maximize their margin on each and every shipment versus thinking about the long-term value of the client. And for us, when we got into the industry, that was our approach, right? And coming from our roots of BCG, it was all about thinking about the long-term value of the client. And so we don't want to ship with that company for this shipment or the next shipment. We want to ship with them for the next 10 or 20 years. You know, and as such, you know, I think that since we started in 2009, we've lost all of one client. And that was due to an acquisition that they had. The acquiring company had a pre-existing relationship with another forwarder, which is understandable. But for us, it's all about driving value and making sure that we exceed the expectations of the client.
The other thing that we found out about that point is just the culture and mentality of doing things in this industry. Like, most companies are set up so they would be working from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You have 1 hour lunch, and for us, diving into this industry and having clients all over the world, literally China, Germany, Brazil, Chile. 9 to 5 Atlanta time didn't mean anything to anyone, right? So we came up with a new culture based on results and results only, which basically just means that you're taking the time and the space component out of the equation, and you're starting to measure people by performance and some key indicators. So if you're in operations, we want you to make sure that the clients are happy and everything's running smoothly and you're invoicing on time and you're keeping track of your shipments and all that. And we're 100% focused on just making sure that our team does that. And we forget about where they are in the world or what time do they come to the office.
But yeah, and so if you get rid of that time component and focus on results, and I think this is where, going to my background, Enrique grew up in Mexico City. I grew up in a similar sized town of Oglala, Nebraska.
Yeah, very
Population
similar.
of 5,000 people.
20 million.
But for me, born and raised in Nebraska, went to the university there, studied biology and biochemistry, worked for a biotech startup. While I was there, knew I wanted to get a grad degree, but wasn't sure if I wanted to get a PhD in science or go and get my master's in business. But I didn't have enough information to assess the latter, so went and took a job with Accenture, worked there for a few years, found out that business is where I wanted to be, and then ended up going to Kellogg, and then joined BCG down in Atlanta after I graduated in '04. But, and knowing that going into the BCG, loved the work that I was doing. I had planned on being there for 2 years, and then leaving and either starting a company or buying a company. Liked what I was doing, so we ended up sticking around for close to 4. But, for us, moving into the logistics industry, we definitely take a different perspective than kind of the normal company or the normal individuals that happen to be working in the industry. And so
tell me, with everything going on in logistics, what are some of the issues that you could potentially run into?
it's a lot of 9 to 5. It's a lot of not being proactive. If there's an issue, the typical answer is, well, if there's a customs hold, it's customs. They do what they want to do. The U.S. government takes care of whatever they want to do. And for us, it's pick up the phone, right? Call if you have a situation, present a business case to the officer that has to go through the customs hold. And usually they're pretty good people, and they'll, be able to get us to have them help us out as long as it's a rational argument. But yeah, so doing that, it's just being proactive, and then again, removing the time frame or the time component. What we had learned through consulting at BCG and Accenture, it's all about delivering results. And so if you remove that time component, I don't care how much you work, where you work, when you work, et cetera. It all comes down to making sure you're delivering results for the client, and that's what kind of rings through with our client base.
And makes a really dynamic culture to work in, and I'm really happy, and everyone seems to be enjoying the kind of culture that we have, because of course it's very flexible when it comes to respecting people's time. And to give you a couple of examples, like one of the operations managers that used to work with us wanted to take guitar lessons Tuesdays and Thursdays in the mornings, and she did that, and no one really cared. Another person that worked with us loves soccer almost as much as I do, and this person went down to Brazil. I had to convince some of his clients that he was not in the U.S., and they wouldn't believe me. I had to send some pictures of him partying in Recife.
In the
but
stadium.
I'm like, no, I'm telling you, he's not here. But at the end of the day, technology allows you to do that these days, and so we're focusing on results. We're providing value. And just the one thing that's also different from other companies out there, as Brian was mentioning, is just not focusing on the point A to point B cost of shipping. And to give you a good example of this, that hopefully will be practical, we were working for a log manufacturer, a log company down in Mexico that cut logs in Veracruz, Mexico, which is in the Gulf part of Mexico, and they were shipping all those logs to Houston, Texas. And so I always had the contact with the client, and the client is basically telling me, hey, as long as you offer me a good freight from Veracruz to Houston, you'll continue having our business. And we kind of went months and months just making sure that we gave him a competitive rate from point A to point B. But I was always asking about, like, well, what do you do with this? How else do you manage your logs? What else do you do? And he was like, don't worry, Enrique, as long as you give me a good freight from Veracruz to Houston, we'll keep working together. I'm like, not too worried about this, but I really want to understand, because that's kind of like when we can create more value.
Right.
And so, long story short, I went down to Houston, bumped into his boss, who happened to be the owner. I started talking to him, and they had like a big warehouse with some huge shredding machines that basically put the logs on one end, and then mulch came out the other. And I asked him where his market was, and he said in California. So I'm like, well, if 80% of your market's in California, you're basically just manufacturing air, because mulch is basically air, and then trucking it to California. Would it be possible to get a warehouse in California, start shipping the logs through the other coast of Mexico, moving the machines to California, and then basically just manufacturing the mulch in California? And again, the owner at the beginning was like, oh, can we do that? I'm like, yeah, let me put a business plan for this. We did it. We saved him like $2 million a year. I increase my ocean rates for sure, but they weren't really worried about that at that point. And that's what we see over and over. I think that supply chain is very complex, but you have to take it all the different pieces into consideration. It's not only give me a cheap rate from Shanghai to Savannah. Right. That's part of it, and
Would
we
you
can
say that
provide
that's
it, but it's not
part of your success is that
Oh,
you're really helping the client, to everything, even putting a business plan together for them and executing.
Yeah, I think our success has been around us putting ourselves in our client's shoes, right? And always doing what's best for the client, right? Because everything that we do, whenever we work with our clients, we're an extension of their brand. And you want to make sure that you're making the right decisions, right? And so, whether it's, I have a client that had a product launch, with Walmart, and their factory in Asia was well behind on their production. And so they had to air freight probably $1 million worth of product, and which the freight was astronomical. And so as opposed to any other freight forwarder would have said, this is going to be great, we'll air freight a lot of this stuff, it's, they'll make a really good margin. But for us, it was, all right, how can we do this cheaper? And so we ended up working closely with our client, working closely with Walmart, basically air freighting 1/6 of what we needed to do, and then sent the rest from Asia to LA, transloaded it, put it with a team of drivers to get it to the DCs, and we ended up saving them a couple $100,000, where anybody else in the industry would have been salivating over trying to maximize their margin. Yeah. So for us, it's all about focusing on doing what's best for the client and doing what you would do if you're sitting in their shoes, and that's driven a lot from kind of us being in that consulting realm and taking a different approach.
It's just being, just trying to build those long-term relationships, right? Because those relationships are based in trust. And so we're not here to ship the next container or the next 3 containers. We're really here to build a long-term relationship with the people we work with. And I think that has been really key to our success. Just being true to ourselves, to our values, to what we believe in, and then really applying it to what we do every day, and making sure that our team and everyone that kind of surrounds us has that same mentality and then that same mindset when it comes to delivering results, putting the clients first, making sure that we're adding value. And the other thing that we're all very passionate about that's also critical to our company is just giving back.
Right.
So that kind of making a better world and changing the world is very important to us. And every time we ship a container here in the U.S., we donate meals to people down in Kenya. That's awesome. And every time that we open an office, and we have offices now in the U.S., 2 in Mexico and 2 in Chile, we talk to our team, and they kind of select a cause that they're supportive about, and then they basically build our business and relationships around that. So we have a very big component when it comes to working with non-for-profits. We love working with companies that are interesting and really trying to give back and making a positive impact in the world. And then also supporting different causes. In Mexico, we work with Canica, and they are an organization that helps families and kids with cancer. And in Chile, we help with Quanil, which is another good organization that helps kids with special needs.
Do you guys ever fly out and go out to some of these locations and stuff like that?
Yeah. As we open the offices, I had the opportunity to go and fly and travel to Santiago a couple of times this year, to Iquique, where the other office in Chile is and where the school is. Yeah. And we go visit the kids and the schools, and it's very inspirational. It's really humbling, and it's really what continues to push us forward.
Yeah, I think it's, for us, it's good for it's good for everyone in the world, right? But it's also good for our employees, because we treat our company, all of our employees as family members versus employees, right?
I say the same thing, yep.
And so, it's doing fun stuff like, going and, I think we have a fundraiser tomorrow. We're going to work with.
We're going to MedShare. MedShare is a really interesting organization here in Atlanta that I can put you in touch with, because that could be a really good interview as well. But
yeah, so it's that, or whether we'd like to do more things where it's more actively and being involved in terms of volunteering and also donating. But I think we've donated over $500,000 to Habitat for Humanity in products and stuff like that to help them build their facilities or their houses.
And we have donated 700,000 meals so far. Our goal was 1 million, so we're short of that, but we're trying to push hard.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So you guys manage a lot of employees. What is it like to manage employees? You come from consulting, then building businesses and stuff, but let's talk a little bit about management.
I think so. I think our culture helps us a lot. We have a very unique results-based culture, which puts a little more of the pressure of managing people to the managers, because communication is key. Yeah. You have to make sure the expectations are aligned and that the goals are very well understood and everyone's very, very in line with what we're trying to do on a quarterly basis, on a semester, on a yearly basis. And then the other thing that's really helping us out a lot is the way we're structuring our workload. We don't like the silo mentality that other companies have. So we don't have like the director for exports and imports and operations and sales. We believe that kind of causes some internal friction and then just makes the whole organization a little bit less efficient and effective. So we're basically have a model that has smaller teams. So Vector is comprised of 10 smaller teams working as independently as you can possibly work, as long as they're following our culture and our processes and our service standards and our values, they can really do whatever they want. So that has helped us manage people, but it's been a lot of fun.
What for us, and given the structure of the company and the culture, we were looking for a lot of self-starters, a lot of people that have that motivation to go get things done, and it's not for everyone. Right. Some people want to show up at 8 and leave at 5. Right. And if you're that type of person, that's great, but it doesn't fit well in our company, because we've hired people in the past where they've bought into this work-only results environment mentality, and they'll come in and show up, but they won't produce the results, and they think, well, this is great, I can work from anywhere in the world, but then the results aren't there, so obviously they don't last very long. But for the people that do understand it and you kind of meld, everything else, you mold your life around work, but if you can meld those two together, then typically you have happier employees. And so for us, it's, with our employees, we'll hire somebody, and then they'll literally within the first few months, they'll say, well, can you interview my sister? Can you interview my friend? And they want family members and close friends to come work at our company just because it's so different than what they've been experiencing.
A lot of that's like in the creative industry. So in the movie business,
right.
We work crazy hours, like sometimes 18-hour days, right? So it's kind of hard, to put somebody that's just used to that whole 9 to 5 into something like that.
Absolutely.
So the fact that you're able to find those people, and generally I think when people, I could do my work, I always say, I was like, you're spending more time in the workplace than you are with your own family. You can
right.
do your work, like you mentioned, you're giving time for people to go get your guitar lessons, go do these things. Like, your work is part of your life. It's like it's part of your lifestyle, and if you're able to kind of fit in your life and do work,
yeah,
I think it overall it makes happier people,
Absolutely.
Better employees.
We don't believe in we don't believe in work-life balance.
Yeah.
We believe that's
Yep.
not
It's
doable. It's dumb.
Yeah.
It's not really something we like. You're the same individual regardless of whether you're at work or at home or with your family or with your friends. So we believe more in let's just get things done. And yes, if there's something, an emergency, it's family related or whatever, we totally understand it. I mean, all our families come first too. Right. So why pretend that we have work or this, and then you have people? I think it incentivizes the wrong things, because you have people out there kind of just taking sick days and calling in and saying, oh, I'm sick today. Well, just tell me you want to go and watch a movie. Right?
Exactly.
You don't have to. We don't care,
Yep.
right?
Transparency and honesty.
Yeah,
but I think the way that some companies are structured are just promoting bad habits.
Yeah, I mean, we had for us, we don't have a sick day policy.
No.
We don't have a vacation day policy, and so we had one of our employees that was getting married, and they were traveling a lot to upstate New York, which is where they were getting married, and she was fine planning everything out. Her husband, who had another job, was would run out of days, and he's like, well, do I call in sick?
Right.
How do I do to make this
Yeah.
work out? And it's just, if you're planning on working with somebody, and then, or if you have some employees that you're working for and they call in sick randomly or whatever, it's fine. But if it's intentional, then it doesn't make sense, and it just disrupts the actual business itself. So
yeah, and again, it all comes down to that whole honesty. I mean, if you're sick, or God forbid you're in the hospital, I want to know, I'm gonna be.
We would all be there with
Yeah.
you, right?
We'll be there with you,
Right,
sending
right.
flowers, whatever we can do to help comfort you.
Right.
Can I take care of your
Right.
whatever?
Absolutely.
Mow your lawn. What do you need?
Yeah.
It's like, and I think that it's a transparency and understanding. you know, the type of work culture that you have. It is great.
And I think that's our main competitive advantage, to be honest. And that's the team we have is an amazing team. It's encouraging and it's really fun to work with them. I mean, you're really, empowered to work harder and make sure you're part of the team and make sure you care more, just because people have shown us like such amazing disposition and attitude towards working under this culture that is really, really fun and uplifting. And we definitely, everything we have, all our success we've had, or everything we've accomplished is really because of our team. They are really the best.
Yeah, the companies, obviously it's not one individual, you know. I mean, a company means people, and having a rock solid team is a great company.
Yeah, when you have no assets, you have to rely on human capital, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And if you don't have good people working for you, then it all kind of falls apart.
Yep.
Right.
That and I think and this place is awesome. Like when I originally was coming there, this is not what I was expecting. I was thinking like, man, it's gonna be like, you know, the styrofoam, you know, the drop ceilings with the lights that are buzzing. It's like, this is awesome. It's a good, nice creative
when we
space.
started the company, we looked around for office space, and we had a real estate broker helping us out, and he kept pushing us down to the airport. Well, that's where all the people that are in the industry work. It's all down by the airport. And for us, I mean, we both lived in Midtown. We didn't want to commute, but we wanted a place where people enjoyed coming to.
Yeah.
And, you know, we found that here at King Plow.
Especially because they don't have to come.
Yeah.
So the few days that you want to come to the office, at least we wanted it to be convenient. And
and you're not sitting in a cubicle and stuff like that. And it's just, it's great.
King Plow is a great community too. Like there's tons of really interesting companies, as you probably saw by walking around. And 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 this area in town is also booming. So it's been really cool so far.
Yep. So tell me, so you guys are entrepreneurs, right? So you have the logistics company. Tell me about this new project that you have that's kind of like almost like an incubator type deal.
Sure. So and this project came about last year. We were looking for a space so we could move our offices because we've been renting at King Plow for 10 years and wanted to have something on our own. So we saw that there was a place opening, which is now Vector, the office you were in before. And so we acquired that unit. And then while doing that and while kind of like getting comms from all the other neighbors and people that I know personally, we found out that there was like an opportunity to buy 2 other units, this one S108 and M104. So we said, what can we do that's complemental, that's also entrepreneurial, and that could also help the community? So we partnered with Joaquin for Sandia, and we launched this place. It's called Sandia, which is watermelon in Spanish. That's probably why you see some of the pictures and some of the coloring and things like that. We believe that all these little seeds come together, working hard to create that amazing fruit that's very inclusive and fresh and international, if you will. Was a good name for it. But what we're trying to do is basically bringing interesting and smart entrepreneurs, small companies, people that are trying to tackle some of the problems we have in the world, and convert this place, which we just opened 3 weeks ago, for people that share our own, the same mentality, the same passion for starting new companies, changing the world, driving innovation. And
would you say that comes from both of you guys, coming from consulting, starting out consulting?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'll speak for myself. It's definitely not. I've always had like this passion of doing something on my own. I've always wanted to do something on my own. Years before I started with BCG, I think that we both felt like it was the right thing to do. But I mean,
for me, like the thought of bringing in companies, right, and getting office or buying office space, we didn't want to just be a WeWork, right? Because as we've seen in the media, there's a lot of scrutiny going around their IPO right now. But for me, what I get passionate about and what I found where I really loved and thrived at BCG was you'd go in, study a company, solve a high-level problem, then you would leave about 6 weeks later. And I love getting to know companies and trying to figure out how you can help and how you can better them. And so we wanted to create an environment where it was an incubator/accelerator where we have a good community of companies that come in and work side by side with them and help them kind of realize their dreams and kind of push their companies forward and think about, you know, how do you get from point A to point B, right? And how can we assist in making them successful?
I think there's something magical when you get a group of entrepreneurs or CEOs in a room together, and like just ideas start flowing. And then if somebody comes in, like I'm a part of a couple of groups myself, and it's like it's great because like you get different perspectives, different walks of life. Sometimes, an issue that you're walking through is something that somebody's already done,
you're not
or
reinventing
you're
the
about
wheel.
to walk through that issue, and you're
Right.
hearing from somebody to learn not to do what they did. So I mean, places like that, I love that you guys are doing that.
And you brought something up that's very important, which is diversity,
Yeah.
right? I mean, if you're really going to change the world, and if you're really going to tackle some of this more global problems, you have to approach this as a team effort, and you have to have people from literally all over the world.
Yes.
And
Especially for CEOs. It's lonely just at the top by yourself. And if you have nobody speaking into your life, nobody speaking into your company, it's going to be very one-sided, and it's going to be very tough to run, you know. So being open and having the team around you is important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there was an article, I forget what it was, in Inc. or something around CEOs and depression, right? Because to your point, there's not a whole lot of people you can turn to and this, that, and the other, and just you want to make sure
they
that
should just be a little bit more open.
Yeah. Well, it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Some people just don't want to share.
Right. It's just all about them.
I think it was Entrepreneurial Magazine. But anyway.
So all right. So we covered a lot of different things. If there's one piece of advice that you would give to an entrepreneur, what would that key piece of advice be?
I'll let you go first.
Surround yourself with
one.
great people, right? And people that are not like you. I mean, to the point from earlier, because, we came into this. Enrique and I had worked together probably for 6 or 8 months while we were at BCG, and we found out that our skills complement each other. And so surrounding yourself with good people that aren't like you, it's great, right? I think that Enrique's probably one of the most motivated people, and also the hardest-headed people that I know. But it's great because, as an entrepreneur, you have to try and try again. You don't, if it would have been just me, it would have been easy to say, all right, like, I give up, right? But then I have this, other side of our partnership that is, I'm going to pound that nail in as far as it can go and make sure it gets done.
And I was going to go with don't give up, right? Just don't give up, to Brian's point. And I think I think your point's very valid as well, because you do need diversity, and you need people that are not like you to complement yourself. And as Brian just mentioned, he's more structured, more on the financial side of things, a little more cautious when it comes to things. And I think we have a really good partnership, not only because we have different skill sets, but because we actually not always agree on things, but we trust each other. And sometimes he does what he needs to do, and I do what I need to do. And at the end of the day, we are a really good team, and we have amazing people. Again, I think you're right. Having a good team, not giving up, and listening as well, because you could potentially not give up, but if you're really just not doing what you need to do, then you should listen to someone, and at some point stop, adjust, change, try again, right?
Can we pause to hug real quick? I'm kidding.
That's great. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. This was
so
awesome.
much.
This was fun.
great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Hey guys, thanks for tuning into the episode. If you guys enjoyed it, show some love, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe. Also, make sure you check out our exclusive C-Level group on Facebook.